All right, folks, look, this is absolutely something you are going to want to see because Donald Trump's decline, both mental and physical, is unavoidable. It can no longer be ignored by the Republican Party. We're all watching it happen in real time. And Dr. Vin Gupta, who is a physician, a medical analyst for NBC and MSNBC News and more, he is wide-ranging, just laid out perfectly the case for Donald Trump's decline, talking both about his day starting later than his first term, the very serious mental decline we see on a daily basis and more. And I just think the way he says it, coming from a medical professional, is so well put and something that I think you should see. So look, we're going to hear from Dr. Vin Gupta in just a moment. Before I do that, make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. This is definitely, that's something that Donald Trump does not want you to see, and that's exactly why we're going to cover it today. Now, before we hear from Dr. Vin Gupta, I just want to briefly go over all of the different health issues we've seen from Donald Trump in less than a year. Of course, he's had his serious hand bruising, of which he covers with layers and layers of makeup. And that hand bruising is still visible to this day. That press conference he had on Thanksgiving after talking to the troops virtually, you can see the bruising on his hands while speaking to reporters. It's still there. And the White House has not given us an answer on why it's there. They've come up with really BS excuses such as Donald Trump has just shaken so many hands. His hand is just getting bruised. He's such a hard worker. But obviously that is total crap. We've also seen Donald Trump's ankles swell up. He was diagnosed with venous insufficiency. His ankles look larger than redwood tree trunks in these photos. I mean, it is seriously concerning. The White House has also been kind of cagey on that as well. Trump also had an MRI and refused to give specifics on the MRI, like what part of his body they specifically looked at, why they had an MRI in the first place. A lot of people are speculating a possible stroke. And instead of addressing those rumors, the White House has been completely silent. And on the rumors of a stroke, this is a clip of him that was released the other day of him walking. And just look, I mean, he can't walk in a straight line. He cannot do it. He's stumbling everywhere. He kind of seems lost in this video as well. He just keeps pointing and look, he can't walk. He can't walk in a straight line. And there are plenty of videos showing this as well. And of course, earlier this year, we also saw Donald Trump fall face first while walking up to Air Force One. And this is, pretty concerning footage given all the videos we've seen of Donald Trump's walking issues. And of course, Trump admitted that he had a cognitive decline exam and that he aced it, which, he brags about that, but you don't get cognitive decline exams for no reason. You're given it if somebody thinks there's something wrong. So anyway, that brings us to Dr. Vin Gupta. Now that we have a background on everything we've seen from Donald Trump on a health basis, and he lays it out really well. So let's just hear from him and we'll talk about it.
That was an incredible tee up, and you're right. You don't, as president of the United States, begin your day at 12:08 p.m. You were liking that offline to what we used to do in college. And that's right. That's not a normal time when you're older to be starting your day. In fact, as we get older, we should be starting our day a lot earlier because we tend to not get enough sleep. And so as you get older, you actually wake up. And that's why our parents or our grandparents are up at 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. So good sleep times gets harder to do as you get older. And so the fact that he's, mobilizing and starting his day at 12:08, per reporting from the New York Times, is concerning. That's one. Two,
And I just want to quickly clarify on what he's talking about here. That article from the New York Times that came out where they did this analysis comparing when Donald Trump starts his days, which is much later in the day. He ends his days much earlier, and he's had a lot fewer public events, a 40% decrease from his first term when you're looking at the same time period. That's not normal. That's not normal. If Donald Trump was in peak physical fitness, as the White House claims, then he could have events any time of the day. He'd be starting his day at 7, 8 a.m. like hardworking Americans out there do, but he's not. He's waking up at like 11:30 every single day.
You pointed out, you and I had this conversation last week. We took pains to not speculate because I think a lot of people like to speculate. And I think based on the conversation we started, a lot of people have started asking questions, but it's clear that there's age-related cognitive decline. I mean, that's obvious. His response to somebody fainting in the Oval Office really conveyed that. He didn't show any signs of concern. He didn't really do anything. He was slow to respond. And that slowness and fatigue you're seeing more and more in his public events. So that's one. Two, he's confused a lot. Three, he sometimes mumbles sort of incoherent nonsense when he's asked a question in the press pool in the Oval Office. So all these things, when this constellation of just him being him. Imagine if President Biden did any of those things. He did a fraction of it from what I saw in the lead up to the 2024 election, and people obviously forced him out of the race.
I just want to quickly time out right there, because that's an argument we've heard from Republicans about Joe Biden for years. I mean, we've all seen it in comment sections and public discourse and whatnot. They were acting as if Joe Biden was incapacitated. That you just never saw him. He just didn't speak. He never walked anywhere. He didn't do anything. They acted as if he was never making any of the decisions behind the scenes, simply because Joe Biden stuttered, of which he has a stutter, a speech impediment. And they pretended as if he was just completely gone. There's no Joe Biden. He's just, basically a hollow body. But when Donald Trump is falling asleep in public, stumbling over his words without a speech impediment, looks confused, is seen wandering on video, all of these different places, and there's no question asked. Republicans are like, no, he's healthy as a horse. He's great. It's just, the hypocrisy is crazy.
You're not seeing that level of scrutiny until maybe now you're starting to see signs of it. But, President Biden was active on the weekends, especially riding his bike in Rehoboth Beach. Physical exercise was something that he was clearly doing, and we had visual signs of that. From a cognitive standpoint, sure, you slow down once you hit your late 70s, early 80s. No one denied that with President Biden, that he had his moments of being 80 or 82, whatever it was. In this case, the White House is not willing to even acknowledge that the president is showing obvious signs of age-related decline, one. But two, you don't see him ever really doing anything physically active the way that President Obama, President George W. Bush, President Biden, our last three presidents prior to Trump, regularly worked in to their daily life. I mean, Biden was biking, he was exercising, he was walking, and he made a point of creating that visual to convey that was a big part of his daily existence. He made a point of engaging the press on the weekends. When he was biking in Delaware, you don't see any of that. And physical activity is one way to really guard against the onset of cognitive decline, dementia as we get older. So I worry about that as well. He might take trips out overseas in Air Force One. That doesn't substitute for the lack of physical activity. So when you put it all together here, clearly something is happening. And clearly they're not getting MRIs just because that's just at the moment that we live in. There's a reason, and they're worried. And frankly, that's piecing this all together. There's a reason to be worried based on his public performance.
That was just so well said by Dr. Vin Gupta. It just feels like the Republicans are constantly gaslighting us, right? We are constantly watching Donald Trump having these concerning moments and making concerning admissions, like when he just blurted out that he had an MRI. That was actually not something that was reported on until Donald Trump said it. And when he said it, he kind of backtracked a little bit. It was like, it was just a small thing. And, it's a typical thing for physicals, which it's not. And, he doesn't know where they did the MRI, which is insane. If you're having an MRI, it's on a specific part of your body. So I'd hope you'd know, right? You'd be able to see it and you'd get the results and read them. So there's obviously a cover up happening here with Donald Trump. It's a top down thing. It's not just the people around Trump, it's the White House, it's Republicans in Congress who deflect questions or pretend it's not happening before our very eyes. There's something wrong, and the confusion that Donald Trump exhibits on a daily basis, you even see it in his Truth Social posts, is just concerning. So look, I will leave the video there. I just really appreciate when we get the medical experts to chime in here, as Dr. Vin Gupta has, and I think he said it perfectly. So look, I'll leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment. Let me know what you think about this story. I'm always excited to hear from you folks. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk soon.